Nee, je mag mij. Ik ga hier één kleintje pakken.
Ja, wat operator iets met zich zeggen. We gaan met dat toer met zich zeggen.
Gewoon zo.
Nou gaat hij om je.
Is het goed voor jullie nu zo? Jij moet eigenlijk hier niet zijn, je pakt de vragen mee.
Ja, maar we zijn wel gebonden aan. Zij dat doen.
Maar Saad, oraya daar.
Kommt hinter mir.
Das einfach über mich.
Wir haben gestern festgestellt, dass Madeleine Albright 1,45 über 10 cm kleiner als ich. So we can try to lure him over here.
Yeah,
That
in
would
the
be
middle,
great.
yeah, but the problem that their microphones,
Yeah.
their microphones are
Impossible for us.
yeah, but he will stand in front of microphones. That's the problem. Because we are standing in the middle. He will stand right there or there. Or
Probably there.
Let's see.
Side.
It's coming from left.
So he will stand left. Who knows? Who knows?
Stop back here at the arrivals area in the NATO headquarters and
Bila tak idemo vidjeti. Nova teorija, nova stvar.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. We meet here at the NATO headquarters facing the most serious security crisis in a generation. And we will address this crisis together and address the threat it means for Ukraine, for NATO and for the whole international rules-based order. President Zelensky will address the NATO leaders, and the leaders will focus on our support to Ukraine. Allies have provided support to Ukraine for several years, and we have stepped up with more military support, financial support, humanitarian support, to help Ukraine uphold its fundamental right for self-defense. NATO's core task is to protect and defend all allies. We have increased our military presence in the eastern part of the alliance. The NATO leaders will today address the need for a reset of our deterrence and defense in the longer term. And the first step is the establishment of 4 new battle groups in the eastern part of the alliance in Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary and Slovakia. We need to do more, and therefore we need to invest more, and there is a new sense of urgency, and I expect that the leaders will agree to accelerate the investments in defense to meet the pledge we have made to invest more in defense. And I welcome that several allies have already made announcements on investing more in defense. The meeting today will demonstrate the importance of North America and Europe standing together, facing this crisis. And we are the strongest alliance in the world, and as long as we stand together, we are also safe. Thank you.
Good morning, Secretary General. Hadley Campbell with CNBC. I want to get a sense from you of NATO's understanding of President Putin's actual mental state at this point, because what we understand, of course, is that even his central bank governor is trying to leave the post, and he's seeing some defection, if you will, from his inner circle. What's your sense of his mental state at this point?
President Putin has made a big mistake, and that is to launch a war, to wage war against an independent sovereign nation. He has underestimated the strength of the Ukrainian people, the bravery of the Ukrainian people and the armed forces, and therefore they are also meeting much more resistance than they expected. We need, in order to address the actions that we see Russia is doing in Ukraine, and that's also the reason why we have significantly stepped up the support to Ukraine, and why we have increased the presence of NATO troops in the eastern part of the alliance and increased the readiness of our troops. We do so to be able to respond and address any threat, any challenge to our security, and what kind of decisions and what kind of decisions they may make in Moscow. I will not speculate further about that.
But are you worried about a nuclear
Is
threat?
not going to shelter Ukrainian sky? And from Ukrainian media, it's been talked about. Can you explain, if not, why not, or if yes, at what conditions?
NATO allies provide significant military support to Ukraine. NATO allies have trained tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers who are now on the front line fighting against the invading Russian forces. The Ukrainian army is much better equipped, much better trained, much better commanded now than in 2014. And the combination of training and support from NATO allied countries with the bravery and the courage of the Ukrainian armed forces is enabling the Ukrainians to really resist and actually fight back the invading Russian army. We provide Ukraine also with advanced air defense systems, with anti-tank weapons, with ammunition and fuel. So allies are providing many different types of support. But we have also made it clear that we will not send in NATO troops on the ground or NATO planes in the air. We do that because we have a responsibility to ensure that this conflict do not escalate beyond Ukraine. That will cause even more suffering, even more death, even more destruction. And to declare a no-fly zone over Ukraine means that we need to impose it. And to impose a no-fly zone means that we need to massively attack Russian air defense systems in Russia, in Belarus and in Ukraine, and also be ready to shoot down Russian planes. And then the risk for a full-fledged war between NATO and Russia will be very high, and that will cause more death and more destruction.
You mentioned yesterday that if chemical weapons are used in Ukraine, it could have a direct impact in NATO countries. Could this be considered an attack on a NATO ally?
I will not speculate beyond saying the following, that any use of chemical weapons would fundamentally change the nature of the conflict. It will be a blatant violation of international law, and it will have widespread and severe consequences. The seriousness of using chemical weapons, of course, becomes even more obvious, knowing that there is a risk always for contamination, that the chemical agents are spread over bigger areas. So this will be a catastrophe for the people of Ukraine, but of course there is also a risk that we can see the spread of chemical agents also into NATO territory. I will not speculate beyond the fact that NATO is always ready to defend, to protect and to react to any type of attack on a NATO allied country.
How concerned are you about China's role in this? And a second question, what does the new military posture of NATO mean in terms of national defense spending?
On national defense spending, I see a new sense of urgency among allies, that they all understand that since we now need to do more, we face the most serious security crisis in a generation, so therefore we need to invest more in our security. And the allies understand that the only way to do that is also to allocate more money for national defense budgets. And I expect allies to agree to accelerate the implementation of the commitments we have made to invest more in defense. And I welcome the decision, for instance, by Germany to spend 2% of GDP on defense. This will really make a difference because Germany has such a big economy. So the increased investments by Germany makes a difference for the whole alliance.
On China.
Yeah. Well, what we call on China to join the rest of the world in clearly condemning the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and not provide political support, and of course neither provide any kind of material support to the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
If the allies want to unanimously ask you to stay on as General Secretary today, would you say yes?
So I will leave that decision to the 30 leaders to decide. I don't have any further comments.
Would you call what is happening, Lotte Meile from TV2 Denmark, would you call what is happening in Ukraine now for a genocide? And if so, what kind of responsibility does NATO have to prevent a genocide?
NATO is providing unprecedented support to Ukraine, helping them to defend themselves. NATO allies are also imposing unprecedented sanctions on Russia to reduce the capability of Russia to finance this war against Ukraine. And we are also, of course, making sure that we are ready to protect and defend all allies. What we have seen is attacks against civilians, civilian infrastructure, and this is a clear violation of international law. I therefore also welcome that the International Criminal Court has started an investigation and will look into this, because at the end it has to be this body that decides on issues related to violation of international law.
Mr. Secretary General, Georgian Public Broadcasting, yesterday you mentioned that it's important to protect other partners as well. What about the Georgian? Do we see some statements about Georgia at the end of the communique of NATO?
I expect that allies also today in the meeting, that the leaders today in the meeting will express their support to partners which are under pressure from Russia, and that includes, of course, Georgia. Georgia has the right to choose its own path. NATO allies have provided support for Georgia over many years to help them to implement reforms to modernize the defense and security institutions. And the brutal invasion of Ukraine just highlights, underscores the need to provide support to Georgia.
One final question from Pro TV.
Mr. Secretary General, Pro TV, Romania, Paul Angelescu, given the war in Ukraine, what is NATO's view regarding possible permanent NATO bases presence in Romania? And regarding the battle group, will it be made up of the troops that have already been sent from US, Belgium, France in Romania in the past month, or there will be additional troops from other countries?
So NATO has already increased its military presence in Romania. We have deployed the elements of the High Readiness Joint Task Force led by France. I visited Romania a few weeks ago, and I also met with the troops from the United States and from other countries, and they all demonstrate a commitment to stay and to protect and help to defend NATO territory, also in Romania. These troops will be there as long as necessary. But this is part of the immediate response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Then I expect at the meeting today that the leaders will start the process that will provide us with advice to make more longer-term decisions on our longer-term deterrence and defense, because we need to reset our deterrence and defense. These decisions I expect leaders to take then at the summit later on in June. So these are two different processes. One is what we already have done, and that will be there as long as necessary. And then we are addressing the more longer-term changes in our deterrence and defense. The fact is that we face the most serious security crisis in a generation, and therefore NATO needs to respond, and that's the reason why we need to reset our deterrence and defense for the long term.
Are chemical weapons a red line for NATO?
Thank you.
We need to wrap. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know that. Sorry, von meiner Seite bin an meinem Poker.
Oh, wow. Put your, sorry, your boom down.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Here's perfect.
Thank you.
Statement or questions?
Question, if you like.
How concerned are you about a biological or chemical weapons attack?
Well, there's a reason to be concerned always, and I think we have to make it clear that that will be met with very serious consequences from neighbors and NATO.
Are you concerned that this could spill over on NATO territory?
Sorry?
Are you concerned that especially a chemical weapons attack could spill over into NATO territory?
Well, I mean, this is a concern, but I believe we just simply have to make it clear that that is unacceptable. And make that very clearly.
Is that a red line for military intervention for NATO allies?
We just make it clear that it is unacceptable and it has to be met with the serious consequences.
What clear message do you want President Putin to receive after today from
Allies are unified. We stand by the clear principle of collective defense in NATO. Article 5 is there to protect member states, and we have demonstrated since this last month that that is very solid.
What about China's role in this?
Thank you. Norwegia. Norway.
Просто умничала ты, я Норвегия. Reset Czechia. 3.
Ja, wir sind auf alle Fälle da dafür und werden das auf alle Fälle machen. Auch, ja. Ja, danke.
Ma da qua da fare a Bubbani. Ucraina è tutto lo che passa. Ucraina è una Afghanistan, also whole networks that the brought on the
მგონი არავინ არ გვექნება ნუც კი მართლა. ვინ შეიძლება ნახევარი საათი.
Are you already invited for the Biden press conference? Okay, good sign.
ამ კაც გამოვწვეთ. წყალი გამოვწვეთ.
That was fantastic.
Yes, we tried our best.
Fine.
We didn't touch it. He's happy. That's nice.
He's happy.
It's the most important thing.
He was happy in the end of the day.
Norwegisch mowida, magari questo è tutto un
Machen wir einen Ratszug, weil Biden das Bundesliga kommt dann nicht mehr rein mit dem Haus. Und zwar für andere Stunden. Es ist eigentlich gut, dass wir hier bleiben, weil die Idee quasi hin und... Nee, einmal da und du kannst gar nicht durch die Stadt und zurück und wieder herkommen. So, das ist eigentlich nicht impossible heute. Vor allem, da kommt heute Abend wieder hin. Es gibt eine Abschlusskonferenz.
შემდეგი მოვიდა ნორვეგია და შეგია ხო რომ უცხოება 4 კაცი უსმენსო და მაგის ლოგისტიკა წარმოუდგენელია რომ მე ახლა დამხმარე. რაც გექნება ეგ იქნება აღარ ნერვიულობა. კომიტეტზე პროსტა ძინო მოვასწრებ ეგ. ეს უცხოეთი ჩაიხოცება. უცხოეთი ჩაიხოცება. ერთი ორი იქნება საჩვენო მოვიდეს და კი 20 რო დააკლდება აქედან რომ დავიძრათ აი ნატოს მოვიდა ეს რა ქვია G7 მოვიდა ოღონდ ის არის ნახე 15-25-ია ნატოს სკანდინავიის და იაპონიის პრემიერის ერთობლივი სტეიტმენტები ევროკავშირში
Dann stellen wir uns heute nebeneinander später.
Wie gesagt, wir organisieren auch einen Platz hier auf dem Hügel. Haben Sie für uns organisiert gesagt, wir teilen uns die mit der ARD. Ja?
Also versuchen wir hat auch gerade angeboten, dass wir quasi direkt neben dem ZDF-Sender können und die werden stehen aber Leute schon mal, die gucken, was ihr da irgendwie Schild.
Nein, weil sie kommen da nicht hin.
Aber gibt es da ein Schild?
Nein, aber die haben gesagt, sie haben für uns Platz reserviert.
Okay, die NATO hat eigentlich für ZDF was reserviert. Guck einfach nach dem ZDF-Schild und stell dich da hin. Genau. Okay, cool. Ja, danke. Markus, daneben euch.
Ja, okay. Soll er da hingehen und sagen, kann er sagen, dass ich Ihren Pass teilen mit euch?
Kannst du ihn trotzdem noch?
Ja, ich schreibe ihn.
Danke, Pini.
Sorry? Ja, weißt du nicht? Ja, dat weet ik. Ja.
I'm going to DC next, yeah, for 2 months. No, yeah.
Nou, die is gestopt als freelance. Dat is wel jammer. Goed voor hem.
No, I might. I don't know if that's ever... Actually, I'm more interested in politics. But we'll see. But usually it's the US except New York and United Nations because we're still But if I get to Chicago, I don't know yet. I don't know how they work. No, I'm still producing there. And it's the same group, or basically the same group? Okay, because that can be fun. I'm also looking forward to discovering this gallery that they're only for... Hi, also Pete sagt dem Typen, der das Banner fotografiert, dass wir uns die quasi teilen. Ich bitte einfach darauf, dass wir uns das teilen. Genau. Oh ja. Ciao.
ამას უცებ წილო გადაუხტოდა ჩვენ აიქს
დატა საიძრო დადებენ ჩვენ ჩავდა მულტიმედიას
გადაითავეთ ეს
გადავრეკოთ და დასვან ჩვენებმა საეთეროში.
NATO, Jahre.
Oh, das war eine Chatteron an Magaskum.
Den kriegst du aber nur, wenn du ein belgisches Pass hast. Den kriegst du nur, wenn du A-Journalist bist. Man kann das, glaube ich, dehnen.
Da geht man, ne?
Und B dauert das irgendwie 2 Jahre. Ich habe auch erst einen nach 2 Jahren bekommen. In Belgien. Ich finde das auch voll korrekt, dass Belgien nur
Is a quote real threat of the just now by the
beweisen, dass du
Aber deshalb dauert es auch ein bisschen. Also bei mir hat es 2 Jahre gedauert. Oder nicht, weil die... Genau. Und dann musst du dem auch, also ich musste in meinem Außenministerium abschließen. Das ist schon wirklich eine wertvolle Karte. Der sieht nicht bunt aus. Aber dann kannst du auch dir, wenn du dann die Sticker hast, kannst du dann zur belgischen Bahn gehen und für die belgische Bahn.
Ja.
Ludzki szarsiło. Oci cuti. რომოვოთ კაცმა არ იცის აქ რა დაფიქრა. ჩვენი დელეგაციებზე მომენტ. და აქ იდგება როიტერი, Associated Press, ანუ საერთაშორისო მედიები, ვის მერე მასწავლებს. ბევრი იქნებიან და ეს მერტი შიშველი ფეხით და სამხელო ფესილებზე არ არის ნორმალური. ოდესღაც მე ვიყავი ახალგაზრდობაში ეგეთი. მე ვიყავი ის რომ ენერგია რომ მქონდა. ესა ეხლა რომ მოკლა ესე ვერ შევდგები. ხარ ვიცი რომ ფიქრზე უნდა ვიდები ამდენი.
Ladies and gentlemen, just some of you have heard this already, but some of you haven't. There's been a bunch of new people come in, so I just want to say that we have a culture of community that makes sure that everybody gets their shot here in this group. So when leaders are coming up, if national press are asking you to move out of the way so that they can get to their leader. Just please do them that favor so they can do you that favor later on as well. Okay?
Let's do the favor for Ukrainian which has
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So do a favor for the Ukrainian press as well.
President Premieri. Amashi არ წერია. მოიცადე? არ არის, ფაღალდი მიდევს ჭიბეში, მაგრამ პრეზიდენტია თუ პრემიერი ახლა გულში მართავს. სახელი გვარი და წარმომადგენელი.
Nice.
პრემიერ-მინისტრია. Jonas Garstor. პრემიერია. ბრიუსელის დროით 10 არის ჩვენთან 11 პირველი ერთ ჩვენ 15 ჩვენ დავიდეთ.
We've got the shuttles of guys walking back and forth to get you there, but even they there's a motor. So the minute you've got your thing, go. Thank you. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's been
We should probably do it now while it's quiet. I just say to you, at that point, you get a lot of money, and then there's a motor quick, can't move, and so as long as, like, do it before the next motor kid arrives, like, if the motor kid comes, then get up and so that they have the information early and they're not, like, rushing.
Am I allowed to go outside and light a cigarette?
No. Well, yes, you can, but you have to go to a smoking zone, and it's going to be like, it's a long way. And I don't actually know where it is. So you have to walk.
No, okay. No.
It's sorry.
You know it.
I know that feeling.
Manageable.
ული ამ კინეს გავტოვებ, მაგრამ აზრით უნდა ვიღაცა მოვიდე.
All movement stops. Regardless of where you are, it stops. And you're going to have to stack up. So just think about where you need to be and give yourself a solid half hour.
ძალიან კარგად გილებზე ვდგავართ და просто სამამდე გვიჭირს, სამამდე გვიჭირს. 3-აზე იქნება ყველა ლიდერის განცხადება და სტოლტენბერგის შიდა გახსნაზე.
Okay, just a quick announcement. If anyone needs a bathroom break, now might be a good time. We've got somebody going back. So if anyone needs a bathroom break, just otherwise.
Later on, it's going to get harder to move. So, like around 9 o'clock, 9:15, it's going to be motorcade, 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 motorcade. And when there's a motorcade, nobody moves. Wherever you are, you're stuck there until they release again. So if you got to go, now's the time.
And then, when it will be possible, the second round to go?
So when will be a good time is when you're asking?
Yeah, because I have at 9
Okay.
live from there. So when is better to go? Because
9 live.
yeah.
Whereabouts? Where do you need to be at 9?
Oh.
9 I have a live from the press zone.
From the press zone?
Yeah.
Well, probably in the next 10-15 minutes we need to be walking you back.
Yeah.
It will be, so after 10-15 minutes we can go.
Yeah, just raise your hand.
Okay,
So,
thank
to be
you.
safe,
Okay.
if you need to be somewhere else, give yourself 30 minutes just in case. Right? And if you need to go somewhere else and come back, give yourself 45 minutes.
Okay. ბრიტანეთი მინდა ძალიან. თუ გავაჭედოთ ახლა.
გადაგწევენ რა.
ეხლა მოვავინე.
აი ერთმანეთს.
ხა?
ერთმანეთს.
ხო, მაგრამ რომეულზე?
Sie hatten ja traveled in the White House.
Ja, und da haben sie trotzdem nicht
Das machen wir
jetzt gesagt, also jetzt Eingang, da wo wir mit dem Shuttle reingefahren sind.
Von außen. Zuschauer ist, glaube ich, fast irrelevant.
Ja,
aber es ist halt blöd, du kriegst das Ereignis nicht. Ja. Das ist ja blöd. Also ist man schon im White House ganz cool und dann kommt man hier nicht rein. Man muss dann von Amerikanern sein.
შანსი გაქვს რომ თუ გავიჭედე მე აქედან გასიყვანში გადამწიო, იმიტომ რომ მინდა რომ ვიმოვაგრო რატომ ნორვეგია და ეხლა დაიწყებენ.
Das heißt, ja, ihr kriegt gleich eine Karte mit den Vorfahrten und wir kriegen von Luc eine Karte mit diesen aus dem Auto aussteigen und die Tour de Table. Das heißt, wir überspielen die Vorfahrten, die Tour de Table Zwischenschnitte und diese Aussteiger. Das Studio ist noch nicht besetzt, ne? Dass man die Leute jetzt einfach dranhängt. 38. Weil dann müssen wir es nachher nicht, quasi, können wir es halt live absetzen. Oder stört dich das?
Ja, stören nicht, aber wenn es nicht unbedingt sein muss.
Auai, ძალიან ცუდ დროს არის გაკეთებული ჩვენი გამოშვება.
Das läuft dann so lange, bis wir hier...
Nur dann ist es schon weg, dass wir...
Вообще Telefoni ჩავერთებოთ ისე.
Wann sind wir hier durch?
10. Und dann überspielen wir dann erst 3 Stunden Vorfahrt.
20. არის მაქსიმუმი.
Weil sonst nehmen wir das Material vom Pool und das ist immer schade.
ანუ ერთი უნდა მოვასწროთ რომელიმე, იმიტომ რომ თუ არ მოვიდა ვერა.
Dann, sonst nimm es vom Pool und dann ist dein Eigendreh. Das ist immer so ein bisschen schade. Wenn sie es schnell machen müssen, nehmen die nicht ein Eigendreh. Also nicht haben. Was schneller geht.
Aber es wäre eine Zeit.
Weil wenn 12 das erste Live ist,
Kannst halt noch versuchen.
lass uns die gleich mal anschließen. Was drüben ist, ist drüben.
რას მოვაპარაკების იმავე გადავწყვეტე მივიდე იმიტომ რომ სინქრონებდეთ გავუვეკე პაატას შეერთმიანე და შეამოწმეთ იქიდან სიგნალი რა მე გამზადებული უნდა გავხდეს ყველაფერი რომ მივიდე და დავდგე მე ვარ ნახე მეორე კვედითი შენობაში ვარ, სადაც არის მუსეები და აქტუალიზების პროსტა მარტო ვარ, მიკროფონი რო გამოჩნდეს და ვარ რო კითხვა დავსვა. უნდა გადავიდე მეორე შენობაში, სადაც არის ოპერატორი, იმიტომ რომ ოპერატორს არ აქვს ეს ეგრეთ წოდებული ფული, რომ იმოძრავებს ჩემთან ერთად. მე იმიტომ ვდგავ რა მეორე შენობაში, ეგრე ვინმე მოვასწრო. თორე ეხლა დავიძრები მარცხში და მივალ იმასთან მაქსიმუმად ეს ადგილზე გაყოლები. უბრალოდ მოსწრების თემაა, რომ ვინმე მოვასწრო. ესენი ვიდეოების მოსვლას მაგ დროს მოაყრენდები და 10 საათზე იწყება კამერა, ანუ შეიძლება 11. აი ეს თემა. მე მგონი ის დროა რომ წავიდე, იმიტაცია ჩავწერო და გადავაბორო ვაფშე. ხო, წავუხიბათ ეგ კომენტი. გამოვარდეთ, ვისაც იმიტაცია ჩავწეროთ და მოვიდეთ. იმიტაციას ვარ ლაივში უნდა. Utkali რომ დაბრუნდა. Yeah, we will go live and we will be back. So we will fix it, no problem. Yeah, she's from Ukraine. Their issue is priority, so. Oh, it is. Good.
Celui que j'aime.
so far we wouldn't have seen what happened, but they were still beating the crowd movements and getting able to talk about it. It was really I laughed when I saw people look at it and said, Did you hear the post? Like, it was worse.
They tried everything but me. Was that the protester? He said certificate for right of 10, but they go so
just a little more. Okay, that comes right. Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, so we've just been looking at the schedule of the incoming motorcades, and we think that it's going to get quite difficult to move quickly after 8:55. And well, so let's say really after 8:50, because the first wave is going to start coming at 8:55, and then they'll be coming every 5 minutes, which means that they won't have much movement allowed. In either direction, in any direction. So, and that's probably going to go on quite tight and fast. Till about, there'll be some places where there's a gap of 10 minutes where they'll be able to, where movement will be possible, depending on how well it goes with the motorcades. But until probably 9:45, 9:50, it's gonna get quite blocked. So if you've got to go, if you have to be somewhere between that time, you got about 10 minutes to leave. And then you may be able to get back in. I'm just saying, trying to manage expectations about leaving between 8:50 and an hour later. Okay? Okay. So there's a group going back to the media center in the next 2 minutes. If anybody wants to go to the media center, that would be a good time. It may not be the last group, but it's close to it.
Go away for arriving.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Das sieht bulgarisch aus.
Bulgaria.
Ja. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Prime Minister. How are you? A quick question over here, please.
Estonia.
Oh yeah, she's good.
Careful.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning. How are you? Good morning.
How can NATO stop Russia?
Just the middle, please, so we can get you all.
They asked me to stand here to the second point. First, I'm very much looking forward to this NATO summit. I think we should talk more about what we do, rather what we don't do, and of course what we can do to help Ukraine, in addition to what we have done so far. I think we have to double our efforts. Putin cannot win this war. This is very important to all of us, to the security of NATO as well. And the second thing we need to discuss is how to increase our defense spending and how to do it very wisely, so that we strengthen the eastern flank, and especially the Baltic countries, because we can't have this plan to defend the country alone and then be liberated afterwards. So that's why we need to become from the deterrence posture to defense plans and to very specific things to strengthen our part of the alliance.
How concerned are you about a chemical weapons attack, and also considering the fact that the Secretary General yesterday said there could be some contamination even in NATO territory?
Of course, we are very worried about what Russia does. Putin's steps are made to make us afraid as well, so that it would deter us from helping Ukraine further or making additional steps. And we should definitely not fall into that trap. We have to stop the war criminal.
If chemical weapons are used in Ukraine, what do you think NATO's stance should be if this red line is crossed?
As I say, we definitely have to discuss what we can do more in order to stop this war, because Putin can't win this war. Thank you.
Is really essential. We haven't seen such a European solidarity in many years, and I think this is actually having an effect. I think we are already seeing the sanctions having an effect.
How worried are you about the hypersonic missiles in the Arctic? We know they're already deployed.
Well, obviously we who are living in the Arctic are always very focused that this should stay a low tension area. But I think right now the situation in the East is at the top of all our minds, really.
What do you make of China's role in this? Are you afraid that China could undermine the Western sanctions?
We are actually going to talk about China later today, and the importance that China takes a stand for peace. So I think that's very important. China has a role to play and should actually take that responsibility.
But what happens if they deliver military aid to Russia? What happens then?
Well, this is one of the things that we're going to talk about today. Exactly that.
And do you expect it to be mentioned in the final statement after the meeting?
We will see what comes in the final statement, but I know that we're going to talk about it.
You say that the use of chemical weapons would be a red line for NATO?
Yeah, as I was saying, chemical weapons and the use of that, which is, in my mind, something quite unthinkable, an unthinkable atrocity, we are also going to talk about that and what the reaction would be.
Are you afraid that this could have an effect even on NATO territory, a chemical weapons attack?
It's difficult to say, but I think just the use of chemical weapons has an effect around the world, because what we need now is not an escalation, and that would be a grave escalation. Thank you. Thank you.
No. She seemed nice. Okay, yeah, the pony. Yeah.
I mean, I could say Scott, but it'd be like this one is Scott.
Also Producer wissen Bescheid, dass wir ab 9 Uhr dann dran. Du baust dann die Leitung im Studio auf, ne?
Just to say that we've been instructed to direct the leaders to a second position if it is empty. So we're going to do that, and that's what we're going to do. I'm just pre-warning you. So if that is empty, we will push people that way.
Who put the microphone over there? That's sassy. Ist das ansatzweise für dich? Die zweite Position. Hat das mit der ersten gerade geklappt?
Wenn die nicht nach da hinten guckt, ist es okay. Wenn die nach hier guckt, ist es okay.
Hi. Ja. Wir sind ARD und ZDF. Ah, okay. Nee, wir sind eigentlich ARD, aber wir poolen. Wir arbeiten zusammen.
Wenn du brauchst,
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you, President Macron is coming shortly. And this is French to you. We would like to put him where you are and then maybe put you here. Is that okay? Just for this doorstep and then we'll come out of the way. Yes? So just change position. How much space do you need?
So, dass der Oberbefehlshaber jetzt bildlich.
That's great. That's good. It's almost good news. Thank you. So, how much space do you need? Show me where you need to. Just like, comme ça, ça va? Is that cool? Everybody okay? And then you can have this spot. All right? And then in a few minutes, he'll be out of your way. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Macron.
Hey, I'll leave it to you then.
Does anybody else have any concerns or worries or interests or anybody else need help?
Espresso. Small one.
Okay. Where do you find coffee? Can we have coffee delivered? My God, I'll get right on that. Coffee for 28 people, please. Coffee and maybe some food. You made it?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm back. Sorry. Can you let me? What? No, it's my place. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
It was unexpected. Yeah. They've been through the war.
DDR-Pool 1.
It was my
Guten Morgen. Wir überstehen die Vorfahrten jetzt live im Studio und laufen auf DDR-Pool 1. Willst du auszeichnen?
Canada is 9.
Da kommt jemand. Kannst du es klären? Gucken? Und wenn irgendwas ist, dann dürfen wir das nochmal. Wir können abspielen. Okay, ciao. He's supposed to arrive at 9:40. Bonjour. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Bonjour.
Je ne vais pas faire de commentaires là, je vais voir le président turc. Et après, de toute façon, je vous verrai tout à l'heure, je prendrai le temps, à l'issue du sommet, de faire une conférence de presse.
Vous saluez néanmoins ce geste qui va coûter très cher en groupe.
J'y reviendrai tout à l'heure. Merci beaucoup.
Latvia. Yeah, they sent Latvian president. Sorry, no, sorry. Good morning, sir.
Mr. President.
Good morning. How are you? Over here, please.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Today we have two main tasks. First, to agree on widest possible help for Ukraine, and second, to strengthen NATO's eastern flank. And I am sure that we will manage these two tasks. Thank you.
How concerned are you about the chemical weapons attack in Ukraine?
We will discuss it because we should help Ukraine. This is a task, this is a goal, and we will agree on that.
Mr. President, what about the partners, close partners of NATO, for example, for Georgia, because maybe the Georgia will become the next goal, because we have
Yes.
the bad experience.
We have some responsibility for the partners too, but of course we are NATO allies. This is alliance of defense of the allies of the 30 member states, and we will help also the partners to defend democracy in every possible way.
Do you
Thank
think
you.
NATO can stop Russia? Do you think it's possible for NATO to stop Russia?
At the end, Russia must fail. Thank you.
God bless you, Mr. President.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Make them say hello.
Where's Canada here? Where?
It'll be right here.
Awesome. To the left, okay.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Would you like to?
How are you?
Despite its name, NATO is not simply a geographic alliance. It's a group of countries who stand together because we believe in democracy, in the rule of law, in the defense of human rights, in the values that underpin all of our societies. That's why this illegal, brutal invasion of a friendly democracy in Ukraine by Vladimir Putin is absolutely unacceptable. And NATO and partners around the world are united in condemning and standing up to Russia, but also being there to support the Ukrainians as they stand and fight for the values that underpin all of our democracies. L'alliance de l'OTAN n'est pas juste une alliance géographique, c'est aussi une alliance ancrée dans les valeurs partagées, les valeurs de démocratie, de règles de droit, de respect des droits universels. Et c'est pour ça que nous sommes si unis dans notre détermination à démontrer à Vladimir Poutine qui a fait une erreur terrible que son invasion illégale de l'Ukraine doit cesser. Nous allons continuer de rester fermes dans notre appui pour nos amis ukrainiens et pour défendre la démocratie dans le monde. Merci.
Sir, what do you make of China's role? Erdogan. Turkey.
Wird er seine Raketen liefern?
Die S-400.
Ja, das ist die Frage.
Ja. Sind das Raketen oder sind das Raketenabwehrsysteme?
Das sind Raketen.
Wie sagt man das auf Englisch?
Das sind Raketen.
Defense. S-400 einfach.
S-400, ja.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning. Would you like
Good morning.
to make a comment for media?
A quick question. Are you going to deliver the S-400 to Ukraine?
Maybe I should.
Klappt das?
Frag mal bei Hasi nach, ich habe gerade keine
Ja,
Antwort.
okay. Alles klar. Kurze Nachfrage, läuft alles? Perfekt, kannst du mir einen Gefallen tun und ZDF Bescheid geben, dass sie sich das auch ziehen können? Ach, du bist ein Schatz.
Replay.
Okay, wie auch immer, aber bei uns läuft es quasi jetzt auch.
Replay.
Ja, genau, und Erdogan ist auch dabei. Perfekt. Super, danke. Ciao. Alain weiß Bescheid, dass das Live-View-Signal der Vorfahrten bei uns aufläuft und er weiß, dass er sich jetzt zieht.
Ja. Mit Stefan telefoniert.
Ja, genau. Da kommt deiner Runde.
Das kann die zukünftige
Generalsekretärin. Das kann sein, ne? Wenn sie Schaltenberg heute nicht verlängern. Ich mag den. Nein, den. Sind sie sympathisch?
Ja, ja.
Good morning, sir. Later. Am besten mit der Zunge. Dober dan? Sagt man? Ne? Dober dan? Dober dan? Guten Tag. Dober dan? Nee, das ist glaube ich Slowenisch.
Das ist nicht bei allen dasselbe?
Also Slowenisch glaube ich ein bisschen anders als Serbokratisch. Geht ganz woanders lang. Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Yeah. Straight here. So today is an important moment, and it's a moment of solidarity. It's a moment of showing deterrence towards the Russian Federation. It's also a moment where we show solidarity with the Ukrainian people. Ukrainian people which have shown an incredible amount of resilience towards a Russian leader who has actually lost any sense of what is reasonable these days. NATO is not an engaged party in this war, and we will remain not engaged in this war, but we'll do anything to weaken the Russian Federation. We do that with the sanctions which we enacted, and these sanctions have a profound impact. On the Belgian side, we show our solidarity. We are engaged today in two places on the eastern border. We're engaged in Estonia, we're engaged in Romania, and obviously, if demanded, we will show our solidarity and do additional measures. Over the past weeks, we have announced a vast amount of additional investment, and today at this summit, I will on the Belgian side also announce additional investments that we will do in the next 3 years, so this year, next year, and the year after, to be able to be more operational. We know that the requirements coming from NATO, the bar has been risen higher, and we need to be ready to show our solidarity and be able to pull our weight.
What happens if there's a chemical weapons
Would that be a red line for NATO intervention?
Well, I have to say that if you look at what is happening today in this war, the total disregard of humanitarian law, the total disregard of international laws, I mean, we are already quite high on the scale of atrocities. And the war crimes that take place, we need to document them, we need to analyze them, and we need to prosecute them at the given time. I think we've been very clear on the deterrence part. And it is the case that if chemical weapons or anything else would be used, that would have definitely grave consequences.
Pro TV Romania, is your country ready to send additional reinforcement to the Black Sea, to Romania, if necessary? And as a wider question, the Black Sea region, how do you think deterrence should look in this region, in this new context on medium and longer term, maybe permanent presence?
Well, today we're present in Romania, and we're extremely happy with the cooperation that we have with the Romanian government. We have 300 people there today. We know that we will probably be there on the long run. If additional requests are put on the table, we will show our solidarity. We will announce today as well additional investment in our operational ability of our defense. If that request is for additional resources in Romania, we'd be happy to increase the excellent cooperation we have with Romania.
Sir, what do you make of China's role, especially if they might deliver military support to Russia?
Well, I think we've been quite clear in our messages towards China. I think the Russian Federation is isolated, is waging a war which is against any international law, with complete disregard of humanitarian law. This is something which honestly we haven't seen in the last decades anywhere in the world. And Russia is completely isolated today, and it should remain isolated to weaken them and reduce their capacity of waging a war. I think the messages to China have been very, very clear. Please keep distance, and up to now China has done so. And I would hope that the international solidarity towards taking distance from this type of war remains. Okay, thank you.
So also as part of the decisions of strengthening the eastern wing, and this is also going to be discussed on the extraordinary summit.
Will you discuss that some kind of support, not members, but the partners of NATO, for example, for Georgia?
Let's see what will be discussed all on the NATO summit. But as for now, North Macedonia, as a member of NATO, we have already made the relevant help to the Ukrainian people. As this is now the time when these free people of Ukraine need the help of the democratic world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister.
Kar prvo vprašanje, bo Slovenija zdaj že kaj bolj konkretno se ve poslala vojake na Slovaško, morda tudi drugam, kakšno bo število?
Slovenija bo poslala četo, se pravi 200 slovenskih vojakov v bataljonsko oziroma bojno skupino na Slovaško. Odločitev je bila že sprejeta. Gre za sodelovanje še z drugimi državami članicami NATO. V Ukrajino pa odhaja naša diplomatska misija. Mislim, da se postopki danes oziroma jutri zaključujejo. Da to ni vojaška misija, kot se napačno poroča. Gre za diplomatsko misijo pod vodstvom odpravnika poslov, ki se bo v Ukrajini trudila za doseganje miru, za pomoč vsem tistim, ki so ostali v Kijevu in ki si preko diplomatskih poti prizadevajo za končanje vojne.
Ne bo pa to misija v imenu EU?
Ne, misija v imenu EU je nekaj drugega. O tem pogovori še potekajo, tudi danes bodo. Tukaj gre za odpravnika poslov slovenskega zunanjega ministrstva, ki bo zastopal Slovenijo.
Veliko se zdaj govori tudi na NATO, da je ta verjetnost morebitnega napada s kemičnim biološkim orožjem kar precejšnja. NATO to skrbi. Je Slovenija recimo pripravljena pošiljati kakšno zaščitno opremo, ker kot vemo, smo tukaj Slovenci relativno močni?
Slovenija ima določene zmogljivosti pri zaščiti oziroma obrambi pred kemičnim in biološkim orožjem. Vendar je moja osebna ocena, da kar se tiče tovrstnih groženj, obstaja tveganja, ker agresorske ruske sile napadajo kemične tovarne oziroma objekte, kjer lahko prihaja do izpustov. Mislim pa, da je sama neposredna uporaba kemičnega ali biološkega orožja strani ruskih sil malo verjetna, ker bi to bil velik strel v koleno.
Generalni sekretar je včeraj pozval zaveznice k podvojitvi obrambnih izdatkov naložb. Slovenija med najslabšimi v uresničevanju obeh ciljev. A bo vlada namerala vlada ukrepiti program?
Slovenija je bila doslej med najslabšimi z zakonom, ki je bil sprejet že pred časom v tem mandatu za okrepitev financiranja naložb v Slovenski vojski. Nismo več, oziroma ne bomo več med najslabšimi, očitno pa bo potrebno napore še okrepiti in o tem bo danes tekla razprava.
Prime Minister, you went to Kiev by train. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what did you learn there that you're going to address today?
Many things. Actually, we went to Kiev to show our support for them. I think that there are four things Ukraine needs the most. One is hope, and that they are not abandoned. Second thing are modern weapons. Third thing is money, to survive in this situation where the economy is disturbed. and fourth thing is humanitarian aid. And we have been speaking about all these issues very concretely, and we have some important messages for our colleagues today for NATO and EU summit.
Are you concerned about a chemical weapons attack?
Actually, we are concerned when we see that Russian aggression forces are shelling chemical plants and similar facilities. This could trigger a disaster of large scale, but I personally don't believe that Russian military itself will use chemical or biological weapons purposely for tactical achievements, because this would be, how to say, very unwise and a shot in their own knee.
The goal is to isolate Russia.
Says Georgia, because Secretary General mentioned that there will be also discussions about these countries.
Yeah, of course, and everything we are doing to strengthen the Ukraine, to help the Ukraine to defend itself, it's also somehow helping to Moldova, to Georgia. And speaking about the political issues, political response to these challenges, I think that advanced negotiations regarding EU membership is also very helpful,
So
and we support it strongly.
You support?
You support it strongly.
Sorry, thank you.
You just mentioned the chemical plants shelling on chemical weapons.
Yeah, everyone wants Poland.
No, Poland.
Sicher? Du da? Du da, oder?
Poland.
Geht immer von aus. Ja, okay. President, ne? Morawiecki ist Prime Minister. Ja, spricht jemand Polnisch?
Du da.
Ja. Good morning, President. Good morning. How are you? A quick statement over here, please.
Good morning, sir.
How are you? Good morning.
Can you sit right there? Okay, great. Thank you.
Jakie są dokładnie oczekiwania Polski, jeżeli chodzi o ten szczyt NATO? Czego oczekujemy?
Bardzo dobrze, że szczyt się odbywa. Bardzo z tego powodu jestem zadowolony jako przedstawiciel kraju, który jest sąsiadem Ukrainy i który dzisiaj jest bezpośrednio dotknięty falą uchodźców z Ukrainy. To ponad 2 miliony ludzi już, którzy uciekli przed wojną, przed rosyjską agresją, przed śmiercią, przed bombardowaniami. Tragiczna sytuacja i w związku z tym ogromnie się cieszę, że ten szczyt się odbywa, że prezydent Biden ten szczyt Sojuszu Północnoatlantyckiego zwołał, dlatego że to jest kwestia tego, żebyśmy usiedli przy jednym stole i zastanowili się, jakie działania powinniśmy przedsięwziąć, aby doprowadzić rzeczywiście do zaprzestania rosyjskiej agresji i wycofania się sił rosyjskich z Ukrainy. Krótko mówiąc, aby zakończyła się wojna, ale przede wszystkim, żeby przestali ginąć ludzie. To jest dzisiaj nasze zasadnicze zadanie jako wspólnoty euroatlantyckiej, jako przedstawicieli wolnego świata. Trzeba to uczynić maksymalnie możliwymi pokojowymi środkami, ale bardzo skutecznie i zdecydowanie. Musi być jedność i absolutne zdecydowanie ze strony Sojuszu. To jest to, czego oczekuję.
What about the mentioned Georgia 2 days ago? What do you think about this partner country and
Georgia is very important, and I hope that someday Georgia will be a member of European Union and also the NATO alliance.
What about the peacekeeping mission for Ukraine?
I hope that we will have many ideas and many concepts, proposals on the table today, and we will discuss.
Are you willing to send troops, NATO troops, Polish troops, into Ukraine?
There is no talks about the troops. There is the proposal of the some peacekeeping mission, but we will discuss.
And will Ukraine still get the mix?
Question about Georgia, but how important is it to strengthen also the NATO close partner? Because we have a bit experience in 2008.
The situation in Ukraine shows that this is very important. That NATO alliance should be strong, should be united, and we should support our allies who are not members of the NATO yet.
What about the
Thank
mix?
you very
What
much.
about the mix for Ukraine?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I think this is a very good opportunity to send the signals. First of all, to send the signal to aggressor country, Russia, to send a signal to Ukraine that we are ready to provide all necessary military assistance in order to make this war or military operation, as they call it, for Russia even more painful. And this is a good opportunity to send a signal to the allies. First of all, those allies which are directly exposed to the threats. And I represent Lithuania. This is a country sandwiched between heavily militarized Kaliningrad region and also Belarus. As you very well know, Belarus is fully integrated into military system of Russia. It means that we don't have any buffer anymore. We don't have the time to react, and this changes the military calculus of NATO entirely. This is the reason why we have to be just... bombing, intentionally killing innocent people. I cannot find the words. What is it?
Don't be afraid that Russia can attack. Don't be afraid that Russia may attack now Poland or Lithuania.
You know, nobody can feel safe now. Maybe it will be Poland, maybe it will be Baltic states, but nobody in Europe, even those countries which are distant from the direct border with Russia, even those countries are not safe today. This is a challenge. This is a challenge for the entire region, for democratic world, Western principles. Maybe it will be the last challenge, but we cannot lose it. We have
What about Georgia also? Georgia is in a very difficult
also
region.
exposed, and this is the reason why we enthusiastically asking for more support within the European format. This is the reason why we asking constantly to take necessary steps to provide a perspective for those countries, European perspective. Yes, we can discuss the wording, maybe the timetable, but it's very important to give those signals to Georgia, to Moldova, which is even probably in more difficult situation than Georgia, and to Ukraine, of course.
How concerned are you about the chemical weapons attack?
Unfortunately, we cannot reject such possibility, but we have to do all in our hands that Russia understands very well the price of such entertainment. Not the right word. The price should be very high, first of all, in economic sense of this word, and I think so far we have the room for maneuver by imposing sanctions. I think it was probably better policy to go full speed from the very beginning. Now we are talking about possible fifth, sixth package of the sanctions, but you know, if you want to achieve the result, sanctions take time and the consequences come after a certain time lag. So this is the reason why we have to be decisive as possible, as much decisive as possible in order to make this pain for Russia, for oligarchs, and even for middle class. Because you know, support to Putin's policy, if we believe those sociological polls, maybe they are wrong, but support is growing, and it worries me a lot.
Would you call that sanctions fatigue right now? Would you say we are
sorry.
in sanctions fatigue?
A few minutes for my...
Good morning, how are you?
You're here.
Yes.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think it's crucial that we meet today. This NATO summit is all about perseverance. We are in this for the long haul if necessary, and we hope it is not necessary, of course. But we need to persevere in the sanctions, in providing military support where we can, humanitarian support, but also perseverance by strengthening the NATO alliance on the eastern flank. What we are doing in the Baltics, in Poland, in Slovakia, in Romania, in Bulgaria, and the other countries at the eastern flank. Today, in that sense, is also a meeting of resolve, showing that we stand united. So I'm very happy that we meet in these very difficult times.
How concerned are you about the possible chemical weapons attack?
Of course, we have to think about every possible option of what Russia could do, and we have to prepare for that. They're also saying that we were planning for some chemical attack, and of course that is total fake news, and that has to be very clear, and also has to be made clear to the world outside.
How can
NATO
you prepare for
consider
something
military
like that?
intervention if there's a chemical weapons
What
attack?
about your partners which are not members of allies?
Can I-
For example, for Georgia.
Again, could you start again?
Yeah. When you are talking about that you are strengthening the eastern part because the threat is real from Russia. What about your partners, for example, Georgia, which is not part of...
We are working closely together, of course, with our partners outside NATO. Of course, Ukraine, which is now under aggressive attack from Russia, but also with Moldova, with Georgia. I'm myself regularly in contact with prime ministers and presidents from these countries.
Do you believe that a recession could be possible as a result of the president's invasion of Ukraine?
Of course, it will have an economic impact. That is unavoidable, and therefore perseverance is the crucial word today, as I mentioned earlier. At the same time, in our estimates, we do not see a recession coming up, but of course it will have an economic impact, absolutely.
Sir,
Thank you so much.
You have to prepare for a chemical weapons attack. How? How do you prepare for that?
Of course, this is one of the things we have to discuss today, but also in the coming weeks between our allies. But let's not think that this is now the only issue on the table. There are so many issues on the table, and of course, being the strongest military alliance in world history, founded after the Second World War, we also have to prepare for every eventuality.
Would military intervention be considered?
It's Orban.
I know, but when he comes.
Yes, I don't know.
Oh, hold on. Nee, magst du mal kommen? Pete. Good morning, Prime Minister. How are you?
Better than I deserve.
Quick question over here, please.
Aid for Ukraine.
Are you looking forward to getting your own battle group? Hier stehen bleiben, weil das erleichtert. Also,
ja.
Sonst habe ich nämlich Bloomberg im Rücken. Sonst habe ich nämlich Bloomberg mega am Rücken. Und mir würde es helfen, wenn du einfach den Platz hier hast. Ihn reinzukriegen.
Nee, die Karte.
Nee, organisier du hier. Nur
Sehr gut. Ja, was? Luxemburg. Aber auch nicht hier.
Ja, das kann passieren. Guten Morgen, Herr Bettel. Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen.
Wie geht es Ihnen? Guten Morgen. Eine kurze Frage hier, bitte. Wie besorgt sind Sie bezüglich eines chemischen Angriffes?
Besorgt. Es ist ja auch in der Presse rausgekommen und auch in Gesprächen, die ich auch selber mit dem Präsident Putin hatte, dass er daran glaubt. Ich habe ihn auch erinnert, dass bei der UN auch der Beauftragte für Chemiewaffen es bestätigt hat, dass es nichts gibt zwischen Amerika und der Ukraine, um irgendwie was zu bauen. Deswegen ist Kontakt wichtig. Es ist wichtig, dass man auch ihm sagt, was in der Ukraine los ist. Und es ist aber schon, dass er dran glauben würde, ist schon gefährlich. Und deswegen ist es wichtig, dass man wirklich erklärt, dass nichts dran ist.
Und was würde das für die NATO bedeuten, wenn es in der Ukraine passiert?
Also Sie wissen ja, wir haben ja Regeln mit dem Artikel 5. Ich habe ja auch heute Nachmittag auch Europäischer Rat und jeder hat seine Kompetenz und seine Möglichkeiten. Tschüss.
Johnson is here. Oh.
Good morning, Prime Minister. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. Over here, please.
Mr.
A quick question over here.
Yes. When it comes to chemical weapons, is that a red line for NATO? Should they be prepared to act?
Look, I think that the reality is that Vladimir Putin has already crossed the red line into barbarism, and I think it's now up to NATO to consider together the appalling crisis in Ukraine, the appalling suffering of the people of Ukraine, and to see what more we can do to help the people of Ukraine to protect themselves, see what more we can do to tighten the economic vice around the Putin regime, and that's what some of the things we're going to be talking about.
Do you believe that there could potentially be a recession as a result of this invasion of Ukraine, and should Europe and the rest of the world be prepared for that?
I think it's very important that we work together to get this thing done as fast as possible. The harder our sanctions, the tougher our economic vice around the Putin regime, the more we can do to help the Ukrainians. I think the faster that this thing can be over. Thank you all very much.
Are you afraid that China could undermine that?
Yes, sorry.
Schlafen sollte trotzdem vorkommen.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Madame. Who was the ex-chairman of the European Council? Prime Minister of, before the France. Slovenia.
Janša, yeah. And who was talking here when Janša was talking there? North of Macedonia?
No, we record him, but it was.
Good morning, madam. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning. A quick question in English, please.
What is the mission? I would like to say that this summit is a strong signal of our determination to stop this brutal war, and of course it's a great signal to Ukraine, to support of Ukraine. Slovakia is a direct neighbor of Ukraine. We are receiving hundreds of thousands of refugees, and of course we are providing humanitarian and military aid. I would like to say that I am very glad for a new battle group in my country, because this is strong support to our defense and security. And finally, I would like to say that President Putin needs to understand that Russia's borders are given by international law, not by his tanks. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to leave? Now's a good time.
Okay, you're also welcome to stay. Not kicking anybody out. I mean, every time I see that there's no motorcade, I'm going to say, if there's no leader here, no motorcade, I'll yell, now's the time. That's it. But you can come at
Yeah.